In this lesson, we're going to be solving systems of linear inequalities. So what is a system of linear inequalities? A system of inequalities is two or more linear inequalities. For example, you could have something like y is less than negative 2x plus 4. And you could have something like y is greater than or equal to 2x plus 4. And then this is the system of inequalities. And so any of the shaded parts or on a solid line are going to be those solutions to that, which brings us to a solution to a system of inequalities is the graph of all the solutions. And that then again is like on a solid line or any part that is in the double shaded area. All right, so example 1, how do I determine if an ordered pair is a solution to the system of inequalities? So we're going to determine if the coordinate is a solution to the system of inequalities. So in order to be a solution, the point needs to be on a solid line, meaning it, in this case it is less than or equal to, and it also needs to lie inside of a doubly shaded area. Anything on a dashed line or anything that is outside of the doubly shaded area is not going to be a solution. So let's take a look here. We have negative 1, 2. And because this is lying on a solid line, this is going to be a solution. So anything that's lying on a solid line, and in this case below the solid line, is going to be a solution to this system. All right, our next one we have negative 2, 1. So let's go ahead and plot it, negative 2, 1. Well, because this is lying in the shaded area, this is going to be a solution. All right, we have negative 1, 1. So I'm going over, down, negative 1, up 1. Notice how this is on a dashed line. Anything that's on a dashed line or that's outside of the doubly shaded area is going to not be a solution, because in this case we have it's going to be less than, not less than or equal to, so this is not a solution. All right, so how do I graph a system of two linear inequalities? All right, so I have y is greater than negative 2x plus 4, and I have y is less than or equal to x minus 2. So let's graph this one right here first. And notice that this one, it starts at the 4, and then I have down 2 over 1. So I've got a slope of negative 2. Now I have to determine whether my line is going to be a solid or a dashed. Remember, if you have a greater than or a less than, that it is going to be a dashed line. So we're going to make a dashed line going through these points. All right. And now it says y is greater than that. So what that means is that now if you've solved for y, then you can just go ahead and shade. Y is greater than, so I'm going to be shading in above this line. All right. Now another way that you could do this is you could plug in the point 0, 0. So if I wanted to check this point right here, I could just plug it in, and it's 0, and then this would be a 0. Is 0 greater than 4? No, because 0 is not greater than 4, we're shading in the opposite direction. All right, so our next one that we want to graph then is y is less than or equal to x minus 2. So we're going to then go to the negative 2, and I have a positive 1 slope, so I'm going to be going up 1, over 1, up 1, over 1, like that. All right. Now, because this is less than or equal to, I know that I'm going to have a straight, solid line. So because I have less than or equal to, I know that I need to shade below the line. And now if I got confused by that, let's just go ahead and I'm going to plug in this point 0, 0. And is 0 less than or equal to, this be a 0, negative 2. And because 0 is not less than or equal to -2, I know that it cannot be shaded in the direction of that origin. So I would know that I have to shade in the opposite direction. So now the solution to this system then is this doubly shaded area right here. And if you had graphed more than 2 inequalities, the solution would be where, let's say you had 3, it'd be where the 3 overlap. So this right here then is the solution to that system. All right, so for our next one, we have y is less than or equal to 2x minus 1. All right, so this one, we're going to start at the -1. And then I have down 2, I'm sorry, it's positive up 2 over 1. And it's less than or equal to, so I know that I'm going to have a solid line. And because it's less than or equal to, I know that I'm going to be shading below that line. And again, you can test the point if you'd like to, if this, if the shading below or above the line is confusing, you can always plug in that point. Then I have y is greater than 1/4 x plus 1. So again, this one's going to start on the y-intercept, and I'm going to go up 1 over 4. And because this is greater, I'm going to then have a dashed line, and I'm going to be shading above the line. So everything that's above the line gets shaded. But then now what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that doubly shaded area. That's going to be the solution to this system. All right, for letter C, I have y is less than 1/4 x minus 1 and y is greater than 2. So let's, first of all, let's graph here. This first one, I'm starting at the -1, and I have 1/4 slope. So I'm going up 1 over 4. All right, so this is going to be a dashed line. And then I'm going y is less than, so I know that I'm going to be shading below this line. All right, so then I have a y is greater than 2. Now remember, these are the y is greater than 2. We know that it's going through the y-intercept. It's got a 0 slope. You can also remember to graph these. I could just go y, and in every case, y is 2, and then 0, 2, 1, 2, and so forth. So we know it's going to be going this way. So I've got a dashed line, and I'm going to shade going below. Now I'm paying attention to this doubly shaded area. And so my solution to this one is going to be any place that's in the doubly shaded. So I'm going to then go back over that and really shade that, okay? All right, so in our next example, we have y is less than or equal to 4, x is greater than -2, y is greater than -2, and x is less than or equal to 5. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to graph the y. Remember, the y ones are the ones that are going straight across. In every case, y is equal to 4. So I'm going to have a solid line, and it's less than or equal to, I'm using a couple different colors here because I do know I'm going to make a mess. So I'm coming down, everything that is less than below the line. All right. So then I have x is greater than -2. So I'm going to, in every case, x is -2, and because it's just greater than, I'm going to have a dashed line. And then everything that's greater than this line, now I'm really paying attention to where it's overlapping now twice. In the next one, y is greater than -2. So in every case, y is -2. So I'm going to have, it's just greater than, so I've got a dashed line. And then I'm shading up. All right, paying attention to where now it's triple shaded. And then x is less than or equal to 5. So we're going to be on the 5. And in every case, x is 5. So it's straight up and down, solid line, and everything that is less than or equal to. So notice how in here is where I had the doubly shaded area. And so we'll just kind of fill all that in right there, and that is the solution then. Anything that is on the solid line or that is in the shaded area is a solution to this system. All right, so how do I write a system of inequalities? Write a system of inequalities for the shaded region. So the first thing you need to do is we're going to write an inequality for each of these lines that you see here. So I'm going to, first of all, to write an equation or an inequality, you need to have the slope, you need to have the y-intercept. All right, so these are going up by 2. So when I go down, I'm going down to 4, and I'm going over 2. So I went down 4 over 2, giving me a slope of -2. All right, so I have a y-intercept here then of 4. All right, so let's write our first inequality. I'm going to have y, and I'm fill in the inequality part in just a minute. I'm just going to plug in the -2x, y is equal to mx plus b. All right, so now we need to determine what our inequality sign is going to look like. Notice how it's shading below this line, okay? So it's going to be less than, and it's also solid, so it's going to be equal to. So that's our first inequality. Our second one, let's go ahead and we're going to find the slope and the y-intercept. Here again, we went down 4 over 2, giving us a slope of -2. But for this y-intercept, notice we're down at -4. So our b is equal to -4. All right, so let's go ahead and put that in here, y, and I'm just going to leave the other part blank, -2x minus 4. And notice how this one is shading above the line, and it's also solid, so it's going to be greater than or equal to. And so here's our system of inequalities that has been graphed above. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We have two inequalities that have been graphed and then shaded, so we need to write the equation or inequality that goes with it. So let's start with this one right here. I'm going to find the slope. Remember, we have to find the slope. We have to find the y-intercept for each of them before we can put it back into the y is equal to mx plus b in the inequality. So, all right, so we're going down 2 over 2, -2 all over 2, giving us a -1 slope. And notice how our y-intercept of this one is going through the origin. And so it's just 0. Let's just put the 0 there so we don't forget it. All right, so let's put it and write the first one. And so I'm going to have y, and then I'm going to wait on my inequality, -1x, and I could put plus 0, but I don't have to because it's through the origin. So, and now let's determine it's going shading below the line, and it's solid, so it's less than or equal to. All right, so now let's go ahead and write an equation for the other line. Notice how it's going straight up and down through the x-intercept. In every case, x is equal to -2. So I'm going to write down x and then -2, and then now I have to determine what my inequality sign is, and because I'm going to the right, it's going to be greater than, and it's only greater than because it's got a dashed line, so it's just x is greater than -2. And so right here is this system of inequalities that has been graphed above. All right, so for our next one, let's go ahead, and again, we're writing both of these. I'm going to start here. I'm going here and here. Notice how you're going up 1 over 1. Our slope for that line is equal to 1. And again, in this one, it's also going through the y-intercept, so the y-intercept is 0. So I have y, and I'm noticing that I'm shading above the line, but it's not solid, so it's not equal to, and then I'll have 1x. And sure, you could have plus 0, but we don't write that. All right, so now let's take a look at our next line. And notice how it is a straight line going across. It's going through the y-intercept at 2. So what I have is y, and I'm shading below this line. So it's going to be less than, and it's solid, equal to then 2. So the system that I have graphed above is y is greater than at 1x and y is less than or equal to 2. So in this lesson, we took a look at how to graph and find solutions to linear inequalities.